Hi, this is Lucy Arnez. You're listening to TV Confidential.
Beautiful party, Miss Amelia.
Oh, thank you.
Lovely party, Miss Amelia.
Why don't you two join in?
Well, thank you, but we've got a great deal on our minds, about the expedition that's coming up and...
Oh, you sure are lucky, Larry. This is going to be a rough one.
Worse than the last one?
Oh, by all means,
told
yes.
me all about that. My, you two should be very grateful to Larry for having saved your life so many times.
Oh, we are. Oh, we are.
You certainly are.
Ed Robertson, along with guest Ruta Lee, legendary star of movies, stage, and television, and one of the grand dames of Hollywood. Ruta Lee turns 90 this coming Friday, May 30th. She'll celebrate her landmark birthday with an evening of songs, stories, and memories at the historic El Portal Theater in North Hollywood beginning at 8 p.m. Ruta's performance that night will be a benefit for the Thalians. The Thalians, the charitable organization that Ruta co-founded with her dear friend Debbie Reynolds and which currently works with UCLA Operation Men to provide free surgical, medical, and psychological treatment for post-9/11 service members, veterans, and their families. While Ruta's performance on May 30th has been sold out, you can make a donation to the Thalians if you're so inclined by going to thalians.org, Thalians, Thalians.org. For our listeners everywhere, Ruta's memoir, Consider Your Ass Kissed, is available Amazon.com, where books are sold online. For more on Ruta, RutaLee.com. We mentioned Palm Springs a couple of times earlier in our conversation. Plus, we talked a bit about Frank Sinatra. If I remember correctly, and this goes back to, you never know when casting people or people involved in talent are going to be in the audience watching you or even spotting you. I understand you attended one of Frank's concerts in Palm Springs one night, and you were spotted in the audience, and that's how you ended up getting a role in Witness for the Prosecution.
That is such a great story. However, he came in from Palm Springs.
Okay.
It was in L.A. at the Mocambo, which was kind of one of the watering spots on the Sunset Strip. And Mary Morrison, who owned the place, this was in the early 50s, was losing money terribly. Nightclubs weren't being visited because television had come into real sway, and everybody was at home watching television. And Frank said he'd come in and play a week, and then Dean would come in, and Sammy would come in, and whoever, would come in and play and see if they couldn't get it rolling. And I was invited by a Palm Springs gentleman to join his party of 10 or 12 people. And we were sitting directly under the dais that Frank was working on, because as you know, Ed, nightclub stages are very tiny, and his orchestra filled and overfilled the stage, and so he was on a tiny little dais, and it was directly above me. And I sat there, and of course, if you or your listeners know, if you've seen Frank Sinatra in person on stage, nobody could ever touch him. He was mesmerizing. And I was awed by him, and I sat there with my mouth hanging open. And a gentleman sent a note back to our host saying, would he mind bringing me around so that this gentleman and his wife could meet me? And I went back, and he said, hello, I'm Arthur Hornblow Jr., and I am producing a film that is in work right now. Would you come in tomorrow and meet Billy Wilder? My mouth really fell open. But I have given you a unique screen test. You watch Frank Sinatra, and I think you'd be a very good love interest for Tyrone Power in my movie Witness for the Prosecution. So I said, is tomorrow too soon? And in I went, and they put me on film. And Marlene Dietrich took one look at this and said, Nick, forget it. She's blonde like me. I became a brunette overnight. And that's how I got Witness for the Prosecution, which was a great treat for me to work with Charles Laughton and Marlene Dietrich and Tyrone Power and that cast of fabulous British actors. Fade out, fade in. It's like a year or two later. And if anybody knows Frank Sinatra, they know that he loves more than anything a lovely big Italian dinner in his own home and to screen a new movie for his guests that are in for dinner. And what's the movie they're screening that night but Witness for the Prosecution?
Wow.
And he takes a look at me and he says to Howard Koch, who was his associate producer, says, you know, I've been watching this Ruta Lee chick on television a lot. What do you say we put her in one of our upcoming films? And Howard said, you picked one of my favorite girls, because I'd worked a lot for him on Westerns and whatnot at Warner Brothers. And that's how I got to be leading lady to Frank Sinatra. Now, is that not serendipity? Is that not luck? I mean, you have to have some kind of talent to back the luck up with.
Exactly.
But so much of this business is by luck.
Well, Paul Newman, among others, said any successful person, and he's not just talking about actors, he's talking about any successful person, no matter what they do for a living. Any successful person who denies the presence of luck in their lives is a liar, but at the same time, you have to be prepared to act on that fortuitous occasion in order to achieve success.
Yeah.
And while, yes, you've had moments of serendipity in your life, you were ready to convert that luck into good work because you're talented and you always have worked hard.
Yes, and I usually came without baggage.
Mm-hmm.
I brought my craft and my knowledge of moving to the marks and hitting the light and doing the thing and not being late, being on time, never, being a pro. And I think the hardest thing in our business, or any business, I don't care if it's selling shoes or insurance or whatever, is to recognize the moment. I think you kind of almost have to look up to heaven and ask your maker to help you recognize a benefit when it's there.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we can be so stupid about things.
Ruta Lee will be celebrating her 90th birthday.
Oh, God.
I don't. Age is a number, and you are living proof of that.
And my number is unlisted.
And your number is unlisted. But if you're listening to us in the greater LA metro area, or if you plan on visiting Los Angeles during the last week of May, you can see Ruta Lee perform at the historic El Portal Theater in North Hollywood Friday.
On my birthday. That's going to be a birthday party.
On her birthday, Friday, May 30th, beginning at 8 p.m. Ruta's performance that night will be a benefit for the Thalians. While the event has sold out since we recorded this conversation with Ruta, you can still donate to the Thalians if you're so inclined. Thalians.org, Thalians, Thalians.org. You can follow Ruta Lee, Facebook, Instagram, RutaLee.com. Stay with us, folks. We'll be right back. One more item. If you're starting a company, particularly one that is in an emerging market, you know that averting any sort of legal dispute is crucial to your business plan. Our friends at Tectonic Law offer an array of services that can help you avoid and preempt future litigation while also developing and protecting your intellectual property and intangible assets. Tectonic Law serves the needs of a host of emerging industries throughout California and beyond, including industrial designers, beverage makers, artists, farmers, retail stores, health practitioners, wellness experts, cosmetics manufacturers, nonprofit organizations, innovators in sustainable practices, and libraries. Go to tectoniclaw.com to learn more about how Tectonic Law can help your business thrive. tectoniclaw.com. Rock solid representation for groundbreaking industries.
This portion of TV Confidential is brought to us by our friends at Front Porch Realty, the community of realtors in the Northern Bay Area of California that is committed to finding the solution that is best for their clients. Whether you're a first-time home buyer or looking to sell or lease your property in Northern California, call Karen Strain at 415-886-7411 or visit frontporchrealtygroup.com for more information on how they can help you.
Hi, this is Ed Limbless Jr., and you're listening to TV Confidential.
Guilty or not guilty? The answer to that question is the end of most mystery stories. But in witness for the prosecution, it is only the beginning of a series of climaxes that I defy you to guess. You'll talk about this picture all right, but you'll never tell the ending to your friends because you won't want to spoil their excitement and their fun.
Dean Martin had a special nickname for you, I understand.
Yes, he did. Now, Dean was called Drunky. Frank was called the Pope. Sammy was Smokey. And I was Loudy. And you ask, why Loudy? He said, God didn't give Ruta a big set of breasts. He gave her a set of speakers.
Yes, and you have used those speakers very well, not only throughout your career on stage and television, but through your tireless efforts on behalf of the Thalians.
Well, that's worth doing. We have been Hollywood for mental health, from pediatric to geriatric, in our clinic at Ben Cedars-Sinai. But now we've switched our focus to some bodies, I should say, that really need our help. And they are the beautiful young people in the military that we send to every hellhole in the world, and they're willing to put their lives on the line for us as Americans. And yet they fall through the cracks when they come back home sometimes when it comes to their mental health. So we have teamed up with Operation Mend at UCLA. Operation Mend heals the broken and fractured bodies of our men and women who return from the wars that we send them to, while we Thalians try to heal the broken and fractured mind and spirit. And I'm very, very proud of us Thalians, who are a group of young actors that got tired of being called hard-drinking, pot-smoking asses that had nothing to contribute to the world. And instead, we built the Thalians Mental Health Center, and we support it, and now we're supporting OpMend at UCLA. And I'm hoping that anybody that's listening that might have a couple of dollars left over, it's hard to have anything left over these days.
Yep.
But whether it's $5 or $500 or $500,000, I thank you, and I will say, consider your ass kissed.
Thalians.org, Ruta Lee's memoir, Consider Your Ass Kissed. Autograph editions available, LarryEdmonds.com. You can also find it at Amazon.com, where books are sold online. Going back to Palm Springs, which is one of our common threads in our conversation today, Ruta, one of the fun things I learned this from Robert Wagner, because for a while Robert Wagner was neighbors with Lucy in Palm Springs. Lucy, that is, being Lucille Ball. And he tells the story about sometimes he would see Lucy ride her bike in Palm Springs, and that's a nice picture of who Lucy was and as a person. And of course, you knew Lucy. You were good friends with her, and you worked with her several times on the Lucy Show.
Oh, many times. And Lucy was wonderful to work with. And I am quick to say that she would brook no foolishness at work. Oh, I don't mean to say she didn't laugh. We all laughed and had a good time. But she really liked people that knew what the hell they were doing, because she worked the 4-camera system, which is hard to describe, but it means that 4 cameras were rolling at the same time. One was a close-up on Lucy, one was a close-up on me, let's say, one was a medium shot, one was the long shot that covered the whole scene. And you had to, choreographing this was much like working a ballet. Mm-hmm. You had to hit your marks on certain times, certain places, so that my nose wasn't in Lucy's close-up, that kind of thing. So she liked people that knew how to work, and she was absolutely sensational to work with. And I've got to tell you, one time she was going with, she was at the time married to Desi. Mm-hmm. And they were going to a house in Palm Springs. And she walked into her bedroom. They took the helicopter down quite often after filming the Lucy show. They'd fly down and land on the golf course outside of their house. And she went into the bedroom, and she thought that little Lucy had left a hair ribbon on the bed. And she reached down and picked it up, and it was a snake.
Oh, wow.
And obviously the helicopter had whirled up the grass. How it got in the house, I don't know. Maybe the door was open. Maybe Maybe it came in through a chimney. Who the hell knows? But there are things in life that terrify me. They are snakes and dentists. And I'm not sure in which order. But I just thought, oh my God, how she didn't have a heart attack picking up that snake, I don't know.
You mentioned Lucy. Lucy liked people who were professionals when they showed up on the set, ready to do her stuff. And that makes sense because it's easy to forget that at the time she was doing the Lucy show in particular, she was running Desilu Productions, and so she didn't have time to waste on the set because she had a whole other studio to run. So she appreciated people like you who, and that's, I would imagine that's one of the reasons why she hired you as often as she did. Ruta.
I think that's part of it because they knew that I would come and that I wouldn't hold them up for money, and she always gave me good things to do. And I've got to tell you that she was also very generous. She was generous with her time, which probably meant more to her than the cash, because she had so little time of her own. And when I asked her to be our honoree for the Thalians and build a show around her, she accepted. When I asked her to be the chair of an event for the City of Hope, she did it for me. Whenever I asked her to do something, she did it, which is really something, and I appreciated that, I think, almost more than anything. Of course, just being associated with her was a magical, wonderful gift that God gave me.
And especially because when you first started working with Lucy, you were early in your career, but and she was not cowed by that. I mean, she had enough confidence in herself that she would hire young actresses, such as Ruta Lee, and by extension, you took advantage of the opportunity to learn from a pro like Lucy.
I did, and the joy was that she put me into her personal life. I mean, there were a group of us, including Carol Burnett and Carol Cook, and we'd go to Lucy's house to play games. She was a great game player. And she loved charades. We used to play that a lot. And later on, she really loved backgammon and things like that. So she included me, and I became friendly with her daughter. She wanted Barbara Stewart, who was Miss Bunny on Gomer Pyle, was my best friend at the time then. And we would go see Lucy in her shows at Immaculate Heart, where I also went to school. And she was a hell of a young actress and singer and dancer. So, the talent that her parents had really shone in little Lucy. And I see her, of course, she's a Palm Springs native now.
One of the other key parts of the Ruta Lee story, and you talk about this a little bit in Consider Your Ass Kissed, is you by your own admission, you were never good at math, but you always understood the value of money, and you've always understood the value of real estate.
Oh yes. But when you talk about math, I mean, I failed math in grade school, in high school, in every school. I just am lousy at math, but if you rustle a wad of bills in front of me, I'll tell you how much is there and how much you'll get at 10%,
Yes, and you've always had good business sense. You've always understood the business part of show business, and I think that's one of the reasons why you were able to navigate a long, successful career.
Maybe, and I got lucky along the way. I never got those millions of dollars, let's face it, and you're not, the only place that I was ever above the title was in theater, and in theater you don't make big money. There just isn't big money to be made. You make comfortable money if you're lucky, but it's not big money. But if you know how to save it, which I learned right on from the beginning, I wasn't quick to run out and buy the most expensive car or the most expensive dress or anything. I knew how to save it and how to. I'm the wholesale queen of America. put it that way. I don't think I've bought anything commercially in a store in God knows how long. And I have such respect for people that know how to make their dollars last.
A couple more questions, if I can. We mentioned Ruta will be appearing on the Debbie Reynolds main stage at the historic El Portal Theater on the night of her 90th birthday, Friday, May 30th, beginning at 8 p.m. Besides having the Thalians in common, one of the things that will for always bind you with Debbie Reynolds is you both played Molly Brown.
Oh, my Lord. That is one of the most beautiful experiences I've ever had. And amazingly enough, the first time I played it was in Fort Worth, Texas. And that was the first time I played that theater, my favorite theater in the country, the Casa Manana.
Mm-hmm.
And Debbie's movie was opening in downtown Fort Worth at the same time that I was learning the script and opening that week in Fort Worth. And what an amazing experience. And Meredith Wilson, who wrote it, came to the opening night at this beautiful big theater in Fort Worth. And he put in print, and I'm brought to tears thinking about it, he put into print, when was asked the question about his favorite Molly, he said, Ruta Lee is the best of my Molly Browns, and if she were playing it on Broadway, it would still be playing.
That's as high a compliment as you could get.
The greatest compliment I've ever had. And I stop and think that, amazingly enough, he and his later wife, that was Renee, the one he was married to then, and she died, and later he and his Mrs. Wilson bought a piece of property next door to mine in Idlewild, California, where USC has a fabulous arts foundation and a wonderful musical theater and a great outdoor theater. And just think, I never built on it, neither did he, but we might have been neighbors, borrowing cups of sugar or gin or something from each other.
You're getting ready for your birthday show on Friday, May 30th, and then you mentioned you have another show in the works for either later this year or early 2026. When you're not getting ready for stage shows, what do you do to keep yourself in shape? How do you take care of Ruta?
Well, I wish I could take better care of Ruta because I need a little more time to do nothing. I have my fabulous, as you know, little house in Palm Springs that I kind of crash to, and I try not to go out as much when I'm there. I also have a fabulous place in Manzanillo, Mexico, and I love that. And you'd think that after 40 years of owning that, I'd be fluent in Spanish. I'm not. Hablar con manos. I talk with my hands.
Yes.
But this, I'm doing something that's on my bucket list. Now that I'm 90, I sort of feel like I'm entitled to do some things that I really wanted to do. And I've had on my mind for many years a month in the country, except when I say the country, I mean in Tuscany, Italy. And I think that is going to be fun. So a couple of days after my birthday, my boss, Michael Holmes, who owns the Purple Room, I should say, in Palm Springs, where I play a lot, and my best girlfriend, Ronnie Miller, we're going to go to Tuscany and just sit and pick grapes and drink wine and eat wonderful Italian food and enjoy the air. And I'll tell you all about it when I get back. How's that?
That sounds good. I was going to say, I hope on your bucket list is another visit on TV Confidential.
Anytime. I'm so happy to be with you and with your listeners. God bless you all. And above all, God, keep blessing America, because sometimes we don't deserve it. We forget how blessed we are to be Americans.
If you would like to support the Thalians, Thalians.org, Thalians, Thalians.org. You can follow Ruta Lee on Facebook, Instagram, as well as RutaLee.com. We'll be back with more TV Confidential right after this.
Hi, This is Erica, Vixen, Gavin.
Hi, Pastor Page. You're listening to TV Confidential.
The most adult motion picture you will ever see.
Ed Roberts with a reminder that the next edition of TV Confidential will premiere next week on this station at the usual time. Please join us as we welcome back Harry Castleman and Walter J. Podrazik, co-authors of Watching TV, American Television, Season by Season. In the meantime, you'll remember that earlier this year we did programs with both Erica Gavin and Harrison Page about the Blu-ray release of Russ Meyer's Vixen. Well, our friends at Severn Films, once again working in collaboration with the Russ Meyer's Charitable Trust, have just released 2 more landmark films from the vaults of Russ Meyer. Motor Psycho, the action and violence saga starring Haji and Alex Rocco, which Meyer originally released in 1965, and Russ Meyer's Up, the erotic comedy from 1976 starring Raven Delacroix that Meyer co-wrote with Roger Ebert. Both titles have been restored and scanned in 4K from their original negatives. Both titles also include several hours of new and archival special features. Extra features on the Blu-ray release of Motor Psycho include audio commentary with film historian Elizabeth Purcell and filmmaker Zach Clark, plus archival interviews with Haji and Alex Rocco. Alex Rocco, by the way, made his screen debut in Russ Meyer's Motor Psycho, while the extra features on the Blu-ray release of Russ Meyer's Up include audio commentary from Elizabeth Purcell and an archival interview with Raven Delacroix. Russ Meyer's Motor Psycho and Russ Meyer's Up, now available on Blu-ray from the very first time through our friends at Severn Films. Leslie Stevens Goes to Hollywood, Daystar Productions' Kate Manx and the Making of Private Property by Dory Page, available wherever books are sold through McFarland Books, McFarlandBooks.com, as well as Amazon.com. Ruta Lee's memoir, Consider Your Ass Kissed, available Amazon.com. Autograph editions available LarryEdmonds.com. For more on the Thalians, Thalians.org. You can keep up with Ruta Lee, Facebook, Instagram, RutaLee.com. Ed Robertson, Beth, Tony Figueroa, Donna Ellen, Phil Grice, and Susan Silver. Thank you so much for listening. Stay healthy, stay safe. We'll talk to you next time on TV Confidential.